Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. And I finally got the brand new Galaxy S10e from T-Mobile in the house, and I want to do for you guys a comparison between the S10e and the S10 Plus. Both of these devices were announced at the same time. They share some similarities as far as the internals, but there's a big $250 gap in price as far as starting point. The S10e starts at $750, where the S10 Plus starts at $1,000. That could sway somebody going from an S10 Plus over to the S10e if they want to get the Samsung experience with the Galaxy S10, but not necessarily go all the way to $1,000. So let's go ahead and do a comparison between the S10e and the S10 Plus and what makes the S10e so compelling of a device. This is TK, let's check it out. Like and subscribe as usual and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we push out new videos showcasing some of these latest, greatest Galaxy devices and other flagships on the market. So this is the T-Mobile version of the device. This is the Galaxy S10e in blue. Let's go ahead and open it up. The unboxing experience is very similar to the way we did it with the Galaxy S10 Plus. Overall, you get a brick for charging. You have the headphones. You have the USB-C to USB-A cable that comes in here, AKG tuned headphones, the OTG cable connector here to be able to use with the USB-C cable to transfer your data from your old device to the new one. And of course, we have the SIM ejector tool and some documentation. Nothing different really for the most part. The device looks beautiful. We got that plastic nice shine right there. And of course, we have that little bit of a smudge right there. But again, this is the, I guess they call this the coral blue version of this device. And it does actually have a screen protector installed similar to the way we have it on the S10 Plus. So the first thing that you'll notice that stands out to you obviously is the physical differences here. Obviously, this is a 5.8-inch display with a 1080p resolution. Here we have a 6.4-inch display with a Quad HD resolution. We're able to change the resolution here down to 1080p or even 720p to save battery. And on the S10e, we don't pretty much stuck to 1080p as far as the resolution. The other thing, of course, that stands out to us is that we have triple cameras here with dual cameras on this one. The only main difference between the two is we lost the telephoto lens on the S10e. So we still have the standard focal length and the ultra-wide focal length, which I think is a better combination, as opposed to what we have here. There's the telephoto lens as well as the dual-tone LED flash with the heart rate monitor. And here we just have the dual-tone LED flash, and I'm assuming that's just the laser autofocusing system. Again, this is the S10 Plus. Both have wireless charging, both have reverse wireless charging. Now, looking over on the left side, you'll notice that the Bixby button and the volume rocker are pretty much in the same spot, although ever so slightly smaller on the Bixby button. The volume rocker looks about the same, and of course we have the band here, and other than that, it's pretty much a clean slate. On the top, we have a SIM tray that supports an SD card expansion as well as the SIM card. One of the microphones for the audio, of course, and this is an IP68 rated phone, so both of these have IP68. You should be fine with some water splashing on it without any issues. On the front, we have pretty much the same, not the resolution, but the same configuration. We have a punch hole camera, no notches, and what you're getting essentially here is a single camera with 10 megapixels as opposed to the 10 and the 8. And the 8 here is mostly used for depth sensing, so for the most part, it's pretty much the same experience. And we'll take a couple of selfies with this and see if there's any benefit of having that secondary sensor over the single sensor on the 10e. Again, it's a 5.8-inch 1080p AMOLED display, 6.4-inch display, dynamic AMOLED display, and of course we have always on display, which I'm pretty sure we'll have on this one. On the right side, this is one of the other differences that we'll notice is that the power button on this thing is basically slightly higher, which is placed here, but the button here is a little bit bigger, and that's because the fingerprint sensor is placed at the same spot as the power button on the 10e, where here on the S10 we have the ability of unlocking our device directly with the display. It's an ultrasonic 3D sensor, where here we have basically somewhat of a typical standard fingerprint sensor, but it's placed at the power button in here. So it's not on the back, it's not on the front, it's on the side. And of course, looking at the bottom, pretty much standard configuration. 3.5mm headphone jack, USB-C for data and charge, as well as the bottom firing speaker that will be married with the top piece to basically have a stereo speaker configuration. And we'll also do a quick sound comparison between the two and see if which one of them actually sounds louder. Now, both of them are running the Snapdragon 855, and both of them start with the storage of 128 gigs or internal storage, and you can go higher, all the way up to 1 terabyte here on the S10 Plus. But when it starts looking a little bit different is that we have 6 gigs of RAM starting here with an option of an 8, where here we start with 8 gigs of RAM with an option of 12 and 10 if you want to go up to a higher price point. So on top of the fact that we have slightly different tech, the in-display fingerprint sensor, comparing it to the side fingerprint sensor that we have here, for the most part, you're getting very similar experiences. So let's go ahead and boot it up, get it set up and get to the home screen, and we'll start doing more of a comparison within the UI. Here we have it, again, as you'd expect, 5.8 to 6.4. The other thing I want to mention to you guys is that the actual bezels on this device are a little bit bigger. Let's go into the Play Store for both of them. So the S10e has an ever so slightly thicker bezel that goes all around the display, and that's also because the display on this device is actually flat. This does not have the curved sides the way we have them here, which makes the bezels look a little bit thicker than they may actually look if the display was actually more rounded or more curved on the side. And the same thing goes around for the top one. You can see right there, here's the comparison between the two. It's ever so slightly about the same at the top, but at the bottom it's definitely about maybe a third of the point bigger than that. But overall, you're still getting a very similar experience. Again, the punch hole camera does kind of sit ever so slightly smaller on the right, and it doesn't take as much of a space as this one does, since this is a 2-hole punch, but we have a bigger display, so it kind of works for it there. And of course, with this one, it's a little bit different there. Now, the One UI that we have here is One UI 1.1, and as you saw here when I swiped, we have some of the T-Mobile applications that are preloaded. Let's go ahead and swipe up. And I'm pretty sure, yep, here it is. Basically, the only 3 apps are the T-Mobile app, the voice message, this is a visual voicemail, and then of course Name ID. And you can uninstall T-Mobile voicemail, but you can also you can't even disable this one. So you can't disable T-Mobile, and then you cannot disable the Name ID. The only one you can uninstall is visual voicemail. So you're stuck with them, but you can just pretty much keep them in a folder. We do have McAfee Security. This is the T-Mobile edition that did install. Spotify, of course. Shop Samsung, that was just mostly Samsung applications, Samsung Internet. It's not a lot of apps. Again, we have 128 gigs of internal storage, not a big issue, but it does actually have those things installed. And of course, we have Bixby Home sitting on the left. It did push one update for me, so it did bring me up to security update of February 1st, so that's something you want to keep in mind. As soon as you get it out of the box, it is going to update, and I'm already running on the February 1st update here on the S10 Plus. Now we're running both stock launchers on both of these devices, and again, swiping up and then just scrolling through the application. Now, I didn't set up all of my applications on here, and I will do a transition for that using Smart Switch that's built in. But as far as comparisons, again, we're looking at 6 gigs of RAM with 128 gigs of internal storage, 8 gigs of RAM with 128 gigs of internal storage. As far as the settings, there are a few things that are a little bit different. Now, first and foremost, I have dark mode turned on here. To do so, you just have to go in here, you'll go into display, and then you go into night mode. You just turn that on, and because this is an AMOLED display, this is going to give us the best benefit there. Where we do lack the difference essentially here is you see that we have an option here that says screen resolution. We don't have that in this options, and that's because we cannot change the resolution of the 1080p or the full HD plus display. So we are at 1080p and we are stuck at 1080p. We're also supporting a 3100 milliamp battery here as opposed to the 4100 milliamp battery. So definitely a big difference in battery size when you go from the S10 to the S10 Plus, or the E to the Plus. But again, 5.8-inch display AMOLED, and then of course 6.4-inch display. Much smaller specs, and this is Quad HD all the way up to Quad HD, and then this one's of course all the way down to 1080p. But you'll notice I have the resolution set to be 1080p at both of them. We have the option basically going in and customizing font size, zoom, full screen applications, of course, adaptive brightness, blue light filter, night mode as we turned on, and of course the screen mode has 2 options. There's natural and vivid, and for me I find that vivid looks a little bit better as far as an option, so I like to keep it at vivid. But other than that, when we go into the settings tab, we'll go ahead and close it here. Both are configured to work with smaller displays. Now, you notice right now I have the buttons sitting here, and we're able to basically remove them by just scrolling down, going all the way down to the bottom, to the right, and then disabling the navigation buttons. And what that enables us to have essentially is these gesture functionalities that I have here. I can swipe from the right, and then I can go into the Recents app. And of course, if I can swipe from the middle, I go home. But that's really some of the main benefits here. It just looks so much nicer, and you get a much bigger version of your display. So all the full 5.8 inches. We have sound and vibration, of course. We can go in there and customize them. You have all the same options, volume, setup, system sound, all of this stuff. Both of them do support Dolby Atmos. So if we go in here, we go into the sound setting, you'll notice Dolby Atmos is sitting in there. You can turn it on and you can click it and go in and customize your audio experience. Again, we have the same experience for the most part. And of course, when we go into notifications, we have a slightly different, but that's mostly because I have more applications installed. And in here, of course, we just have the ability of turning on the T-Mobile application. That's just notification options. I'm going to disable that there. And display, as we went already through, wallpapers and themes, similar things. You can install customizing your wallpapers, themes, icons, and of course, always on display. I'll go ahead and say update. And this does support always on display, so that's something you want to keep in mind. It's an AMOLED display, so it's not going to have any issues with it. Give it a second there. And I don't want to see promotions, but here it is, always on display on both of these devices, and you can customize them. Now here, let's go ahead and go back. Yes. And then of course we'll say cancel. And then of course, then we have lock screen options, which we can go in there and customize. For me right now, I'm using PIN, face unlock, as well as fingerprint. And here we only have swipe since I don't have anything set up. Always on display is turned on and configured. We can of course go in there and customize it even more and set up the different options. We have roam clock, face widgets, of course, notifications, app shortcuts, and app locks. So all same thing at this point. Biometrics, let's go ahead and in there. I am running two different themes, just as a heads up. If you notice, the color scheme here is a little different than I have them here. We do have face recognition, fingerprint, and let's go ahead and set that up. So we'll go into the fingerprint section since I already have it here. Okay, and you notice right there now it's asking me to put my finger there. Let's go ahead and register that. And the cool thing about this here is that one of the things that a lot of people were concerned essentially is installing glass protectors on the S10 Plus. Do we end up losing some of that, fingerprint sensitivity? And I did a video for you guys showcasing the dome glass from Whitestone that just fixed that issue for us, of course, on the S10 Plus. The cool thing here, we don't have that issue since the fingerprint sensor is on the side, and it's really nice and it's very functional, of course. Now here we've added the fingerprint sensor, and of course we are able to basically use it with Samsung Pass, Samsung Pay, fingerprint unlock, fingerprint always on, and of course you can go in there and customize it and name it, and of course you can check the fingerprint to make sure that it does work. So that's fingerprint 1. Next thing, we're going to add the face unlock. So this one did pretty much the same we did with the Galaxy S10 Plus. We're going to say yes, I do wear glasses. I'm going to say continue. Give it a second. And it recognized it. Now it's asking me to take off my glasses. And you probably noticed it as it was reading my reading my face. It actually did do a little bit of a kind of like an ever so slight notification around the camera ring. So that's something similar to the way we have it there. And it works perfectly. Let's go ahead and unlock it using the fingerprint sensor. Now, as I mentioned to you guys, the update that we did get pushed out here, it does give us the ability of going all the way to February 1st. Now, one of the reasons why I took you into this section, and it's because one of the things I was missing out of the S10 Plus this whole time I've had it, is the fact that the Samsung blockchain key store is not present on this one. So this one needs to get an update to get it enabled. But the T-Mobile version of this does have the Samsung blockchain key store in there. And you have to agree, get into it, and just go ahead and say start. And you can set it up basically to either connect it to your existing cryptocurrency wallet or create a new wallet with it. And it already has it built in here. And if you guys would like to see a more of a full video focusing on that blockchain post, just let me know in the comments below, of course, and we'll be able to get into that. Other than that, we have secure folder that's built in here. You can customize it and use it. Other security setting, encryption, location, of course, app permissions, send diagnostics if you'd like to have that on. Samsung ads, I disabled those. But other than that, account setting, pretty much the same. Google accounts, of course, you do need to set that up. And under the advanced features, we can go in here. We have Bixby routines that I have them off here. We'll turn that in. Go back here. We'll turn off Bixby routine. The Bixby key is here, so I right now have it set to be a double press and open Bixby. Once you have Bixby set up, you'll be able to go in there and customize it to your liking. The short answer is you are able to recustomize the actual Bixby button to open up whatever you'd like, because for me, I have it set up right now to open up the Google Assistant. So it works really nice, and I'll have a video for you guys in the description below if you'd like to be able to remap this Bixby button to just launch almost anything you'd like, even if it is the Google Assistant. Game launcher, of course, dual messenger, all of the different options. For the most part, at this point, I think we're pretty much going to be getting the pretty much same experience. General information, language inputs and resets, nothing major here. Software update, again, this is going to go to the T-Mobile servers to check for updates, and this one goes straight to the Samsung servers. Big difference essentially is that in theory, the updates on the unlocked version should be coming out much faster, where the updates on the T-Mobile one may take a little bit longer, mostly because it has to go through T-Mobile to get updated, but for the most part, you should be able to get the updates on the same. And you notice again, February 1st for both of them. Now that we've talked about almost the UI and the aesthetical part of this differences, let's go into the camera, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys want to be able to know that. So do I want to turn location? No. Since we haven't used the camera before, the first thing that'll stand out to you is that we have two different options here. One essentially is that big tree option, that's the wide angle lens, and that just gives us the ability of seeing a lot more on our device. So let's go ahead and hold both of these devices for you guys. And you can see we're getting pretty much the same field of view. I have basically the grid turned on. And of course, we turn on to the standard focal length and you're getting the same experience. And this is where it gets a little bit different. The telephoto lens gives us 2 times optical zoom as opposed to digital zoom. So here, it's not that I can't zoom in, but at this point I'm in the digital realm as opposed to where here we're in the optical. So telephoto, I think, is definitely a nice lens to have. If you're looking for that, you definitely need to go to the S10 or the S10 Plus. But if you're getting the S10e, you're still getting a really good lens. That wide angle lens is definitely worth it. Let's go ahead and turn on the front facing camera, and we'll go ahead and take one selfie with both, and we're going to turn on live focus, because that will basically use the secondary sensor to give us a better experience. I'm going to turn it on Actually, let's just do live focusing to see how that goes. And there we have it. Both did a really good job. I mean, the separation here is basically done really nicely. I can see the actual lines here are not as blurred, where here we have a little bit more blur sitting on the side. You could kind of see it here with the S10e. The main benefit here, of course, is that we can go in here and then change the actual portrait effect. So we can go here and just go in color point. And you know what, it actually looks pretty nice. And we can of course go into the zoom, and you notice the icons are also different between the two. I'm not sure why, but maybe to compensate for the smaller display, but we definitely have more of a better image here. So here's the spin effect, and then of course the standard blur. We have food all the way on the left side. We have panorama. Oops, we'll go here. We have food, panorama, pro, live focus, photo. We'll go back. Video, slow motion, and slow motion and super slow motion. The super slow motion is really nice. Going into the settings, going into the camera resolutions, on the rear camera, the maximum resolution we're able to go is, on both of them, is UHD at 60 frames per second. Although you're not able to see it at UHD quality here on this display since it's a 1080p display, but you're able to record it at that resolution. And of course, we'll go back one more time on the front-facing camera, and the ultimate highest resolution that we're going to be able to get is, again, UHD stabilized footage. So let's go ahead and go back, and then video stabilizer is on. HDR rich quality, of course. Grid size, I don't like to turn that on. I always like to have that just to help me set up my camera shots. Camera modes, you're able to go in there and customize which camera mode shows up in what order and where, and you can actually disable ones if you find yourself not using them. And of course we have quick launch, which double pressing the power button, and then the ability of basically using the shutter sound. I'll disable that there. And you can of course either reset it or go about the application. Very nice, very easy to see. Let's go ahead and do a quick audio comparison between the two. We're going to load up YouTube. Now for the audio comparison, I went ahead and loaded Alex Trindo Jumbo from NCS, and on both of these devices. I'm going to start them off both at the same time. They're both at 1 minute and 24 seconds to see which one sounds louder, and we'll play the difference obviously in volume level here. Now, to my ears, it sounds like the S10 Plus is ever so slightly louder. They're both very loud. They both can give us really good audio, and they both have really good representation as far as configurations, what you can get with them. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is the ability of actually having gestures built into the fingerprint scanner on the S10e. And that's really a unique feature to the S10e, because the S10 and the S10 Plus have a 3D ultrasonic fingerprint sensor that's built into the display. Although I can add gestures to it, which basically is enabled by the actual launcher, this doesn't actually give me the ability of using the actual fingerprint sensor to initiate gestures. And that what it means essentially is that you're getting the ability of opening up your notification shade, using the device with one hand, not having to go do any kind of finger gymnastics. And of course, you can open it up, go home, swipe up from the center, and then just get everything set up correctly. For me, I'm thinking that if you're looking to get into the S10 line and you feel like the S10 Plus is way too big, because this is 6.4, the S10 is 6.1, and this is a 5.8. All these devices are considered to be big phones, so just keep that in mind. We're not looking at smaller devices, but from a portability and basically pocketability, the S10e definitely feels very nice, and I like the color that we have here. Very cool. Dual sensors. It's again a 12 megapixel, just standard what we normally have with the multiple apertures, the ultra wide lens that we have there, and of course we have the 10 megapixel front facing camera that is essentially in the punch hole variety, which is really nice, and you can see that. So at the end of the day, when we're looking at the comparison between these devices, there's a few things we need to keep in mind. If you're looking for a smaller form factor and you want to be able to basically start at a lower price point, I think the 10e offers you a really good bang for the buck comparison to the 10 and the 10 Plus. Now, this is by no means the most cheapest device on the market, but when you're coming into the actual One UI experience, the display technology, the camera technology, and of course, just the overall, all the features, the 3.5mm headphone jack, the wireless charging, the reverse wireless charging, these things that you normally don't see on standard devices below that price point. So the 10e really makes a very compelling story. If you want a bigger device and you don't mind necessarily paying a little bit more, I think the 10 and the 10 Plus offer you that extra feature of having the in-display fingerprint sensor. Now, we don't have gestures on that the way we have it on the 10e, so keep that in mind, but it's definitely better technology and something that you could use, and for a little bit more. So let me know in the comments below, which one would you prefer, and did you actually already pre-order your S10e, S10, or S10 Plus? This is TK. Thank you very much for the support. Like and subscribe and share this with all your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next video.